The Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries presents Friday Night Bible Study. Our Friday night Bible studies are held in the United Kingdom, Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, and in the state of New Jersey. Welcome to Friday Night Bible Study.
Peace, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Bible Study. My name is Elder Jeffrey from the St. Louis branch of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. Thankful for you guys to be here with us today. We're really excited about this discussion we're going to be having today. So right now is the time to go and, get your Bibles, get your notepads, share this out with some of your friends and family, and because we're going to get into a very vibrant discussion. So if we bring our team on and introduce themselves. All right, who we got with me? Let's start at the top. Minister Anthony, introduce yourself.
Peace, how you guys doing? I am Minister Anthony. I am an Aries. No, I'm just playing. Well, peace. I hope you guys are
not
doing
that type
well.
Of show.
I hope everybody's doing well, especially during this time period of darkness. I hope everybody is staying secure and wrapped up in this spiritual awareness.
Absolutely. All right, Zebulon, how you doing?
Peace, everyone. How you guys doing? Right. My name is Zebulon Jackson, and I'm a Youth Rise member from the New Jersey branch, and I'm just glad to be here today to talk about this. And
yes, good. No, glad to have you here. Shelby, how you doing?
Great, I'm great. How y'all doing? Peace, everybody. I'm Shelby Brown, and I'm from the St. Louis branch, and I'm excited to get on with our discussion.
Absolutely. And Ezra.
How's everybody doing? This is Ezra from St. Louis branch, and I'm excited as well.
All right. Very good. So we got an all-star cast here to talk about this topic. Lessons to young Israelite brothers. Lessons to young Israelite brothers. It's sort of a play on words. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that book, Letters to My Brother by Harper Hill, and where he just talks about different lessons, tidbits, strategies for young men as individuals are going from boyhood to adulthood. Especially in these perilous times, we wanted to make sure that there was some sort of guidebook, some sort of open discussion in order for young men to understand they're not by themselves. What they're going through is normal, and the expectations of what we have about young men going into manhood. And we want to make sure that we are loud and clear about that, because the messages that are given outside of Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries can be very confusing, detrimental, dangerous, flat out wrong. And we want to make sure that we're in the forefront of making sure that our young men, and any young men out there that want to listen, can benefit from the wisdom that we have, of our statutes, our laws, and our commandments. So that would be a great time. If you have a young man in your household, make sure he's listening to this. Make sure fathers are listening to this, because here is really we're putting the weight on our shoulders to make sure that we have these conversations with the young men, the uncles, elders. This is a discussion for all of us. This is a man's discussion. Women can be here too. Definitely want women to be able to weigh in, but this is really about the men and understanding our responsibilities and speaking with the young men about what it is that they need to be doing. So again, I just want to welcome everybody as people are coming into this channel. Make sure again that you join, subscribe, like, comment, donate for what we're doing here on Friday nights Bible studies, so that we can continue to do this and bring this information out to you guys. Okay, so one of the things about this topic, letters to our young Israelite brothers, is understanding the role of men and just that whole process of development. This topic kind of has been spoken about prior. We've had some prior lessons on this. I remember way back early COVID time, Minister Anthony and Ezra did a lesson on this. I know Rise had talked about this a couple times recently, about the role of men and relationships and things like that. But we thought that it would be good to sort of bring some elders, some older peers into this, just so that we can give some perspectives as well and some insights, and based upon our experience. So, with that said, I think I want to jump to the first slide, and Minister Anthony, if you can you read this first slide?
Yes, this is Proverbs chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. Hear ye, children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law, for I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also, and said unto me, let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth.
Powerful.
Very, very powerful. We were speaking about, ironically, we were speaking about this previously. And because the one thing I always said is, oh, man, I wish I would listen to my dad more. I wish I would have soaked up more as a young man, the things that he was saying, right? Because it's not always said in the best tone, or it's not always said in the best manner, but gems are gems nonetheless, no matter how or where you find them. And so looking back on that, that's one aspect. And I'm blessed I can still call my dad and ask him different things. But it's different now because I'm not a little boy anymore. So he talks to me as a man, right? Not as an equal. I will never be my dad's equal. Never, ever, 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 ever. Will never be his equal, because it's still a father and son relationship. So that verse speaks volumes to me. Because some of those things that I did hold on to, I hold on for dear life. Dear life. And I'll never forget just one thing he always put emphasis on is raising kids. No, he always said, son, you are not allowed to come in my house and not take care of your responsibility. That's one thing I've always taken to heart.
Yeah. How about you, Shelby? What's your thoughts on this verse?
I like the use of the word father, but I think father can be so much. I think it's more than just our father that was at home, because that was the conversation. Like, I wish I would have took a lot more of his guidance. I did, but I mean, I wish it would have been a lot more just following that way, because I tried to do my own thing and it didn't work out well. But father was just not my father. It was like I had friends who had good fathers too, and they would give you those gems too. And just listening to all of that, just and bringing it together, I think I wish I would have just followed a little bit more, because again, like I said, it lets you live, because some things you can do will make your life seem like you don't live, like you're not living, or you need to get that knowledge and that wisdom. I think just that fathers, listening to those fathers, those men before, is really important. And I like that verse, because that's basically what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Okay, Desmond.
I just wanted to jump on what everybody was saying as far as the importance of that, because when you're a babe or when you're young, you kind of have this fresh brain, but you don't necessarily have any wisdom in it, right? You just all you have is like what you feel, and you don't have anything beyond like just what you just feel about something right now. So to even like to be humble enough to listen, which is even the way that Solomon wrote that, is like it's almost in this like state of like needing to bring, yes, you are a man, but I need you to listen to me right now, because there's still that respect man to man, right? We are our own like beings. We have our own value systems even within us as men. But even to know that I have been on this planet longer than you, and I've seen things that you will never see, and you will see things that I will never see.
Right.
In order for you to, I'm trying to set you up best so that you don't limit your own potential, because I
Yeah.
see potential, but you can ruin your potential, so it's about even like taking heed to what someone who has been around longer than you has to tell you and share with you.
I just want to add on to Ezra's point about how your fathers have gone through everything that you're going through right now, and they're basically just giving you advice on their own experience and their own mistakes. And that's why I enjoy like the age differences here, because I'm seeing also what Minister Anthony's saying about how he's a father and how he wishes he learned from his father's like advice when he was younger, and how I'm that age now and I'm just going through what my father's telling me and I'm just taking his advice. And it's just crazy because, yeah, it's a generation.
No, absolutely. No, 100%. 100%. And that's what it's about. I think definitely that verse. It's funny, you read a verse, and depending where you are, it's gonna hit differently, right? And that verse for sure is asking the young man to, hey, listen to your father, because once I was a young man and I had to listen to my father, right, and just continue to pass this on. And so what we just heard, starting with Minister Anthony, Anthony's like, oh man, I wish I'd listened more to my father. I would have maybe avoided some pitfalls. I wish I would have listened more to the elders when I was growing up. And maybe I would have been maybe even further along. I would have been all these things. And as a older man, you're always looking back and reflecting on your life and thinking like, oh, I could have done this, should have done this, and those things. And so those things we want to share, and to make sure that the younger generation doesn't fall into these same holes and traps that we have that are out there. Life is hard, life is rough, and we want to make sure that we prepare you for life and what's out there. So that's one part of it is really admonishing younger men. Hey, as fathers, as elders, we really are trying our best to teach you and mold you and prepare you for what's coming in your next stage of life. But when I read this verse, one of the pieces of this here is, as the title says, our duty is the responsibility. It's not just that it's a thing that we like to do. It's our responsibility. It's our duty to make sure that we do everything that we can to teach the young men as they're coming up. It's what we're here for. I remember we did an exercise in New Jersey when I was in the New Jersey branch. Shout out to Priest Kurt, Elder Kurt, now head of the New Jersey branch, and all the brethren there. And we did an exercise where we had individuals in different generations, like an older generation sitting in the chair. We had someone maybe middle-aged sitting in a chair. We had like a young person in their 20s sitting in a chair. We had a young teenager sitting in a chair. And so we had these different age groups all sitting in chairs in one line to each other. And then we had an empty chair on each end. And so what the individual was supposed to do is look to the person to your right and think about and say, what is my responsibility to you? And look at the person to your left and say, what is my responsibility and expectation from you? So that every generation, we kind of see the connection of how we're interconnected with one another. So someone that's a young person, let's say like Ezra, he's looking towards like maybe Minister Anthony and thinking, okay, what is my responsibility to you? What do I expect from you? And who's further along this journey in my family? And then I will look down to someone like Zeb, who's younger. What is my expectation for you, and what is my responsibility to you, right? You understand what I'm saying? And so you get a sense, you're going through that exercise, you kind of get a sense, it's like we're all connected and we all are dependent upon one another. It doesn't make sense that I'm going to go through this path and then I'm not going to tell you, hey, don't there's going to be a sign that says go right, but that's wrong, go left. Like, oh, there's a hole there. Don't go through that pothole. Yeah, it's my responsibility. It's not just about me, but it's about me sharing my experience with those who are coming in before me, coming in after me. So it was just to remind me of that. And that's when I read that verse, I think about that responsibility that we have as older men, having to instruct and help guide the younger men. Thoughts? Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I like that. I like the premise there of having that responsibility and that duty. And it's kind of I don't know. It's different. It hits different, especially being in. I'm not an older man, because when I get
You're in
around
the
my
middle.
dad,
You're in the middle. You're in the middle. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
right in the middle. But when I get around my dad, I feel like it's like you revert back to that role.
Yeah.
And you forget sometimes, like, wait a minute, I'm grown. But around him, it's like, no, you kind of, especially if my siblings are there. If my brothers are there, we all fall back in line like we're
That's
like
true.
8 and 6 years older, and we don't.
That's true.
And he kind of dictates to us and those things. But like you said, their responsibility. I see when I talk to my brothers how we do owe each other responsibility, as well as to the younger generation, right? Because now I find myself speaking more to my nephew than I ever did before. And having those conversations, because he's 13, I think he's 13 now, and having those conversations and letting him know those things, and all these, the wisdom you want to pour out. And one time I remember he was going through something, and I was like, "Oh, call your papa." And I talked to my dad, like, "Why you tell him to call me? You talk to him."
Right.
And I was just, I was like, "What do you mean? That's not the way it's supposed to be."
You're moving chairs. You're moving. You got to move over. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, for him, it's like, son, I'm this is no longer. That's what he tells me, my brother, time. That's your job now.
Yeah, 100%.
You import that now. So I love that perspective.
So real quick, a quick question. You said something. You said about St. Anthony, but as you mentioned it too, you said, when you're a young babe, you don't have any wisdom yet because you're young. But I think sometimes you think you do, and I'm wondering, what causes you not to take the advice of your father and elders?
Good question. I'll answer that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just I thought I knew better. I thought I would. It's weird because you believe in what they're saying, but you like, I could do this, but I could do this a different way and better. Why you didn't do it like this? And that becomes you find out real quick.
Smiling so big. He had such a big smile right now. He's like, that's it.
That's it.
No, that is right on par. I was big on, I'm gonna prove him wrong.
Yeah.
I thought my dad was so just macho. And he was so, and I was just like, I am determined to show him that I can do it. I can do it better, and I can do it differently.
Yeah.
And you bump your head enough times, and you come back and you put your head down, and he's like, I know. It reminds me. My dad told me a story about my grandfather. My dad was fixing on his car, refusing to ask my grandfather for any help. And my grandfather was sitting on the porch with his buddies, and they were looking at him, and he could hear him talking about it. Like, you think you know what he's doing? My grandfather was like, no, but he gonna hit his head enough times, he gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And as my dad is telling me that story, I'm wow, because I'm like, wow, I was doing the exact same thing. Like, why are we doing this?
100%. So so understand, young man, we watch you sometimes and we're like, that's why that's not always a bad thing, because as a man, that's how you grow, right? You can't just, yes man, right? You got to kind of like follow your vision sometimes. That's how you grow and trust yourself. And but it takes a time to get there, right? And so as men, as a part of the scriptures which speaks about, don't oppress the young man, but give them wisdom, because they need that breath sometimes. They need to be able to bump their head, because that's how they're going to learn. That's going to happen. It's not, no one's going to be perfectly obedient. And you need to give them a little room. The problem is, which we're going to get into our next slide in a second. The problem is, we just want to make sure you guys don't hurt yourself to the point that it has lifelong consequences. You know what I mean? And so we really, that's why sometimes we get a little worried, but we're like, okay, give him a little room, let him bump his head, we know we're not going to follow 100% everything I say, but we're gonna, We know they'll be back when they bump their head and say, yeah, maybe I should have. And sometimes that don't happen until later in life. But you know, that's one reason why, you know, sometimes we can get a little angry when you don't follow instructions, because sometimes the consequences are so dear. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, you know, those things that you talked about, that breathing room for them to bump their heads, is exactly why we are the men that we become, because how that head bump is so many lessons in that head bump that we stuck on it, and that duty that we read about, the duty that
100%.
the father has. That's
Yes.
where the duty is
100%.
comes from there, because
That's
now
right.
I bump my head. I know
Right.
what's about to happen.
It's not a theory.
It's not a theory. It's I know for sure.
That's right.
You know,
Seven's in the chat for that. Seven's in the chat for that, guys. 100%. That's it. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Let's jump to the next slide. This kind of. So a part of, and we're going to get into this, and I want to make sure that, you know, a lot of times, especially when we're talking to in a Jacobite perspective or African American history perspective, a lot of times it's just so dire. It's like slavery and then Jim Crow and then, you know, all these decade statistics and all these various things. And it's like, you know, and I know the slide is going to jump into that too a little bit. But let me tell you, you know, there's difficulty, but if you do it right, there also, especially under the Israelite nationwide ministry, there's a lot of joy. There's a lot of opportunities. There can be a lot of progress. There can be, so I don't want to paint a picture like life is just grim. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful gift from the God of Israel. And that's why he didn't just give us life. He also gave us instructions. This is life. This is your nation. This is your people. This is your heritage. Now, this is how you make sure that you treasure it in a way that's going to benefit you and not harm you, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I just want to add a little thing there just so, you know, I don't want to paint the picture like everything's doom and gloom. I think all of us in our life have come across challenges and perils and things like that. But overall, you know, man, it's a beautiful life. And I'm so thankful to be able to be, you know, to have been granted this, you know. But let's see, the perils of this new Egypt for young Israelite men. And you can watch the news, you can look at any statistics, all those various things. The center, you know, is really about you. Young men are the targets. And this is not a direct quote, but it's a paraphrase from Tupac. I am a young black man with a target on my back. Everywhere I go, someone's looking for a reason to take me down. So I know Tupac is my generation, but I'm just wondering from this generation, let's say from Ezra and Zeb, is this an accurate sentiment that young men may feel, or is it a little overblown? Or tell me a little bit. Let's right size this. Ezra, Zeb.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny. I was just listening to Tupac on my way to come here. It's funny. Yeah, I think that it's just it's been shifted in the way that it feels. I think that it's shifted from being like a very obvious oppression over time to a very subtle oppression of the mind, more so than fully physically. We still see physical issues, but the physical issues are as a result of more of a mental oppression. I think not having control of how you're seen. So if you're walking down, I remember sometimes I would just be with my friends, and you're just so aware of your blackness when you're in public, you know? And so when you're walking down the street and just any conversation that involves like authority, you automatically feel a sense of like just self-awareness. It just forces you into that lane of self-awareness. And that's my experience in my age. I'm not sure whether it's changed, but the issues haven't changed. So I can only imagine that those things keep going, even though they may feel different. I know, you know, it's a big thing in America, Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. That seems like we're on this journey of progression and unity, when in reality it's just happening in a way that you're blind to, you know. So you also don't want to get caught in the trap of thinking, oh no, we're all equal, everyone loves each other, and we're all good. Because I think that is also that's also propaganda as well.
I agree very much with Ezra, because even like the standpoint of like friendships, and because I have friends of various ethnicities, white, Asian, Black, Indian, like all those. And it's, especially when you're in public, it's kind of weird to like see how adults like interact with you compared to like other, like your other friends or whatever. Because there was one time I was in the grocery store and I was with a couple of my friends, and this old lady comes up to me, this old Black lady. She's like, be careful, because if cops or if any authorities come, they're going to look at you first and not your other friends. So it's just always like smart to stay one step ahead and be careful. So I agree with Ezra completely.
I don't know. Shelby, Ms. Anthony, it don't sound like much has changed.
It's interesting. So, when I was younger, I never really thought about the police or authority figures. It wasn't, I guess, it wasn't heightened as much as it is now. Like then, right? I mean, I'll be honest. I was more afraid of my dad than I was of anybody else. Like I didn't think like it was like I don't care who's trying to do what, as long as it's not my dad. There is. So I think it's
to that point, I wonder, you know, a lot of these is just personal experience, which is one person experience is just as valid as anyone else's personal experience. A lot of it can be in the time frame that we're talking about. It also could be in the environment. So if you grow up in a predominantly Black environment, is that different? If you grew up in a mixed environment, if you grew up in I think you're used to be, well, you grew up in both. But I wonder if that also has a play on,
oh no,
you know,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Because early on, I grew up in a very multicultural neighborhood, very, very multicultural, and honestly, it was a beautiful experience because I got to see a bunch of things. Me and my sister used to joke about this. We didn't realize we were Black until we moved to the suburbs, and it was majority. We moved to the #1 school district in St. Louis at the time, and it was a lot. It was predominantly Black at the school, and it was like, wow, this is different. We had, although we lived and we would go visit my grandmother in neighborhoods that be predominantly Black. It was nothing like being at a predominantly Black school. It was almost like an indoctrination to Blackness, to the things that you should observe, you should feel, things that you never necessarily felt before. But then people start kind of putting it on you, like, well, you need to look at this now. You need to feel this before. Then you find yourself getting angry about things that you normally didn't get angry or upset about before. So it was definitely a weird dynamic. It was. I will absolutely agree with you there, because moving to the suburbs really was my first time ever having any interaction with any authority figures. It was curfew. Honestly, I never knew what curfew was. I grew up in the city, so I mean, I guess that was curfew, but nobody ever enforced it. So moving in the suburbs, like, it can't be out here.
Yeah. So I think. Okay.
No, I just wanted to add to like kind of those differences, right? Because I think when you grow up in more multicultural environments, it kind of prepares you for diversity, but also your Blackness doesn't feel like any threat to the environment. But something about the suburb, you now are aware of when you have to play defense and when you have to play offense. All of a sudden, like there's like this game that kind of begins. And I know that, I mean, every region is different, but I know that in St. Louis that there's Black and there's white, you know, and there's a separation, and we feel differently, you know, and we live differently and we think differently. And so I think that was kind of a shock when I first moved to St. Louis from New Jersey, and experiencing that and kind of like trying to just live and be myself, like in school. But even in those instances, I would always never quite understand why the Black students were the way they were fully, and also never quite understood why the white students were how they were. I just never understood. I'm like, I'm just trying to be myself, but eventually, like, you have to fall into something, you know. So I think going through school with especially as an Israelite, right? Because you're going to school with a unique sense of purpose and a unique sense of identity. So your black peers don't necessarily have that same vision. And your white peers, they're just kind of living in their own world. Like they don't, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to try and navigate like, well, I'm confident too, but I don't necessarily just have to be, I just have to be good at sports. I can't do well in school too. And I can't also want to play instruments, and I can't also like, I don't know, want to go to this event. So I think a lot of it was just like these boxes that sometimes society can place on you. So it was kind of a struggle, kind of like the whole black white thing in here in St. Louis, trying to figure that out when you're just a person, you know, and not just, you know. So yeah, and being an Israelite on top of that, I'm just trying to do my unique path, and everyone is just saying you need to be more like this, just like as you were saying, Miss Anthony. Well, if you're black and you ain't watch Martin, then you're not black. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I didn't know there was a prerequisite to be black.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, Mr. Yeah. He said, "Oh yeah,
oh yeah." We used to get made fun of for the way we spoke, for the way we dressed, and you know we were from the city, so we felt like, you know, we used to have all these little names, right? Like you guys like you guys are county, right? And our minds, especially when we were younger, if you were county, that means you were soft. And if you're from the city, Sherry know what I'm talking about. If you were from the city, that means you definitely had that toughness about you. So when they would come and make fun of us, we're from the city. Like, you know, we fight, we do all these things. But the idea of that like radical blackness wasn't something we dove into. And I was in the desegregation program. So I was getting bused way out to South St. Louis to go to school, which was I didn't like that experience at all. But I felt like I had seen it all. I was put into a different situation. It was like, whoa, this is a whole new world here, and I didn't know how to take it. I didn't really know how to fully comprehend what was going on. And to be honest, my dad didn't either, because up until that point, he had never lived in the suburbs. So we were all new to this experience of how do we behave, how do we act, what's right, what's wrong. So it was unique.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, Shelby, you can jump in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, I grew up kind of the same way as Minister Anthony. My father was in the military. And so I would go from, you know, a military brat, right? And my mother lived kind of, you know, we would call the hood. And so I ended up coming from a mixed environment and then going into just an all black school. And it was so eye opening, because they do, I like what you said, they do, it's almost like a prerequisite, Ezra, where they're like, hey, you got to do this, man. What you mean? You do that? You watch this? Oh no, this is not. We don't watch that, man. Or you talking about the subject or something, and they're like, no, we don't. We're not watching. We don't do that. I like that you use Martin, because Martin at the time was one of our TV shows we was watching all the time. So yeah, I feel that it was very different. It's very, the prerequisite thing is so huge. Like you some in the military, you don't even. I never even really thought about. Okay, I thought I knew I was black, but I was like, I had white friends, you know, Latino friends. You know, I'm running around with them all the time. But when I came and switched gears, it was like, oh, okay. Well, there's no white friends at the school. There's no Latino friends, so it's just all black friends, and we doing what they do. Not I have to, but we doing what they do now. You know what we do. I say what they do. That's crazy. But yeah, I just want to say I feel those same ways about how Minister Anthony talked about that prerequisite.
Just to add on to that, I think it's interesting because even on the slide, the whole idea where it was like a picture of a black boy with a target on their back. But there's something that even happens once the child begins to age. It's like there's the ability to kind of be around different types of people in that youth area. But as you begin to age and you start to look more like a black man with you start to get bigger. like all of a sudden you realize that, like, wait, they're looking at me different. Like they're looking at my whole being as like, okay, like
a threat.
Yeah,
you're a threat.
Yeah, right. So there's something, and it starts in that teenage years when all of a sudden they look at you and they see a black man, where maybe when you were in elementary, middle school, they just saw, yeah, it's my black. It's like it's just my friend. You know, you may not even know a black friend. You just think it's my friend. But sometime in middle school and then high school, and then by the time you become like a full grown man and you just go out in the world, right? Because once you go out in the world, you don't have like you don't have all your buddies with you. You're your own man. You got to go and live and go fight and go do what you got to do. And you're interacting with strangers all the time. What they see is just you. They see a black man. And that is something that I think is definitely a big piece of that transition.
And so as a father and in raising children, boys, men, you know, and we're at that stage of, okay, you know, where I'm going to live, right? And I want to live here, I want to live there, I want a nice house, I want a nice, all this type of stuff, right? And then a big consideration, okay, but our children, where are they going to go to school? And until you get to that point, at least with me, I didn't really think about that. Like, what? Oh, but then you're like, I really got to think about that. Like, that's not a trivial thing, right? Because that's going to trajectory for their life. And so, you know, I was fortunate enough, even coming to St. Louis, I was coming, you know, for a job as an attorney in Social Security Administration. I had a choice to live wherever I wanted, pretty much, and I didn't know anything about St. Louis, so I looked around at different neighborhoods and so on and so forth. And the thing that drove my decision was the quality of school. I want to get my children the best education money can buy. If I want the best education, that's all was really driven by. And so, because of my experience too, as you guys have talked about different environments and how you're treated differently in this environment, you know, it's sort of like, you know, always like the trade-off. Okay, do we stay culturally in the majority, but maybe not the highest quality school education system, or do we just like, hey, you know, I'm gonna give him his identity and all those various things. So let's get the best education environment that he can do, and we'll be able to figure it out. So now in hindsight, years later, after going through the system, you know, I'm like, oh, just always sort of weighing it to, okay, was that the best decision? Because it definitely wasn't perfect. There's a lot of challenges along the way. And maybe things we missed, things whatever. Again, as elders and as men, we're not infallible, but we always was trying our best. That's why we need this communication to kind of make sure that we are, you know, getting the outcome that we're hoping for. And it's just always, you know, going back. We've had conversations about this, you know, Ezra and I and Mather and Jeff Jr. just about, you know, some of the pros and cons of that type of decision. And so, so I think, you know, young men that may be going through what we're speaking about, you know, we understand, you know, we understand, and it's a challenge. And I think a lot of this speaks to the idea, especially on top of that whole quote unquote Black experience, the idea of the understanding of Israel makes all the difference. Because, you know, until Israel didn't really have an answer as to why. You know, why are things the way that they are? And Israel really made it plain and simple. I mean, it's still complex, but it made it, you know, there's an answer. And it made so much sense, you know, as to why things are that they are. And so it allowed, at least hopefully our goal was that, you know, our children, our young boys, our men growing into men would have that as a foundation to keep them from just, as you were saying, Shelby, just kind of following the trend of whatever group you had to be in, you know, like society sometimes pushes you into a group. And so the idea, and then, you know, the idea is that, you know, there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way, but as long as we have the foundation of this, the hope is that it would help guide you and maneuver through this environment, you know, because it's tough. It's not an easy process you get having. It's not gotten easier. So that's the hope. But we always want to hear back from you guys to say, okay, how's it going out there? Like, is this, do you need more? Is this helpful? Is it, you know? So somebody's going to jump in? I was going to go to the next.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I agree wholeheartedly with that sentiment. When my dad first moved us into the suburbs for a better school, we were going to public school. I thought, well, when he moved out to the DSEG program, which I didn't want to be there, but his thing was, hey, I'm moving to a to the best school district in St. Louis. It was we didn't I didn't get a chance to have that conversation and say what we liked, what we didn't like. His whole notion was about the future and what was going to propel us to be in the best possible situation. Period. So even to the young men, right, who may not fully understand, because I don't know if having that conversation at that point would have helped me understand the decision. I didn't want to move, right? I didn't want to lose friends. I didn't want to lose what I thought was valuable then. And so you get a little upset and you kind of you rebel a little bit, right? You rebel a little bit, hoping that you can almost go backwards.
Yeah.
And so for the young men that are going through that, or for the young men who have those questions, or you know what I'm saying, like that feeling there, right? As you were saying, you're not alone in this.
Right.
You're not alone. And being a parent now, I understand my daughter doesn't understand every decision that is made. And sometimes we had a conversation, and sometimes, hey, you know what? Tough. You just got to deal with it. Because on the other end of this is something more important than what you can really realize at this given moment. So it's like it's surreal to me as we're having this conversation, because I'm replaying childhood, I'm replaying adulthood, and as a parent, and it's like, wow, this is, it's like a movie just going back and forth, just on repeat. And you're seeing all these different things, and that's why these conversations are so helpful.
Let's go to the next slide. Ezra, you want to read that?
Sure thing. Be prepared, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12.
And here's the reality. We are not living in Shangri-La, right? Land of opportunity, home of the brave, home of the free, land of the brave, however that goes. This is the new Egypt. This is the land where our forefathers were brought captive. This is the land of Jim Crow. This is where any bit of freedom we have, we fought with. It wasn't given to us. We fought for. And we have the opportunity to, right now at this point, to have a clear understanding about who we are. That we are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is our God. And that we have been chosen to be a part of his family. And that because of the disobedience of our forefathers, we are here in this situation, facing these things we just spoke about. And so then when we send our young men out into the world, whether it's in school or wherever it is that they are out there, they face these type of hardships and these sort of calamities. Understand, don't be surprised about it, because this is the land that we're in. Go back to the slide, please. This is the land that we're in, and we're told this. This is the prophecy from Deuteronomy 28. This is all along from the time of the judges and the kings, Jesus Christ. All talked about, hey, listen, you guys are gonna be in the land, and it's gonna be day and wish it was night. It's gonna be, you're gonna be in doubt of your life. You're gonna be the tail and not the head. All these things that are come upon us. And so we walk and we see this happening to our people that look like us that are out there. We shouldn't be surprised. This is the manifestation of those prophecies. And so as older men to younger men, this is like, the proof is in the pudding. If there's ever a question about why do you guys say that you're Israel, read the scriptures and look around the world. You tell me who fits this bill. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this and really clearly understand. The same way when we started down this path, talk about all these negativities that are out there, we don't want these negativities or this battle to freeze you, because there can be a sense of well, then what's the sense? Just eat, drink, and die for tomorrow. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Just stay in my house, or whatever. It's we're trying to tell you, yeah, it's raining outside, but don't let that keep you from your goal. Don't let that keep you from living your life. Don't let that keep you from doing the things to develop yourself and reach your gifts. Just understand there is a way for us to be successful as Israelites, despite being in this land of our captivity. So we're not going into one camp or the other. We're not like closing our eyes, pretending it don't exist. And we're not going there, look at every corner saying, hey, look, racist. Hey, racist. One of the worst enslavements is the enslavement of looking at yourself through someone else's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a self-enslavement. That's a self-imposed enslavement. You're looking at yourself through someone else's eyes. And that's how we've been conditioned. But thank goodness to the wisdom of our elder. Thank goodness to Israelite nationwide ministries. Thank goodness to the God of Israel, because he's giving us this foundation, this spirit of understanding. When you think about our eyes being opened now, we're not holding on to someone guiding us through life. We have our eyes clearly open, seeing reality. That, yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of things out here, but guess what? There also is a lot of hope. There also is a lot of opportunity. There also is, like, the same way how we had the prophecy of our demise, there also is the prophecy of our rebuilding. And here we are today on Friday night Bible study, older Israelites talking to younger Israelites about how do we do this? How do we maneuver through this? This didn't happen 20 years ago. This didn't happen 50 years ago, right? We are at a cusp of a new era that we want to make sure that we just don't take this lightly, or just think somehow that what happened before is just it's always gonna be the same. It's like my era growing up, you'd be like, oh, no, there'll never be a black president, right? But they won't let that happen, that type of thing. And now we're past that, Not that that's a measuring stick. I'm just saying the perception sometimes is like, they're never gonna let a black man do this, never let a black man do that. That's not, and it's not the black thing. I'm just trying to address that sentiment, to understand that you young men are going into a world where Israel will shine, and you're the ones who are going to take it there. And you may not understand that yet, but you have to understand that's how the prophecy goes. That's the trajectory that we're on, right? That's I don't. You probably get. You may not be able to see or feel it, but I do, and I know it's not if, but when. So. Go back to that slide. I want to keep that slide up a little bit, because I think that's worth saying and really getting people's perspective on that.
We should also put some sevens in the chat as well, and some fires and the emojis, and donations. We love donations because we love you.
I have to say, this is what you said, that this goes to, I think we talked about it before. Me and Minister Anthony have, that a lot of young men going into the world don't feel any type of love or specialness, or something unique about them, and I think it gives the Israelite young men, you guys know, or you have the ability to know. We were always told that was one of those prerequisites. Oh man, don't nobody, you black, don't nobody love you, or you this man, don't nobody, not necessarily saying it exactly like that, but the way things went about. Like, if somebody always told you that you were going to be, bothered if you in this place or that place, it makes you feel not like you don't have that love. And I think you guys the Israelite young men coming now, if we had some of the things that you do have, like knowing the God of Israel and knowing that you special to him, and knowing how special you are to just even the world, like, I think that's what really gives you, because that's what really gives you more, I think it's going to be better for you guys. I hope it's better for you guys, and I'll push towards that, like lean on that. That's that you're special. I mean, just this summer, just having you guys with me when we were interacting, I felt like I'm handling, this is God's precious, his peculiar treasure. I have to take it. So I see you guys special. You guys see yourself special and loved from the God of Israel. So I think you can put that on you. You can come to the world a little differently than we came, even. And I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Like, I feel like that for y'all.
Well, someone want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Well, from a young person's perspective in the school system, I feel like foundation is just such an important thing that needs to be put into the Israelite children, because in school, there's so many distractions. There's so many, everybody, unless you have maybe like a sibling or a cousin in school, everybody doesn't worship the God of Israel just like you do. And you're kind of like the odd one out. And I just feel like it's important to not let that get in your head and just listen to what your father's advice, your elders' advice, because just like it says, don't let the rain keep you from accomplishing your goal. Don't let what your peers say distract you from the true and living God. That's what I just wanted to add that.
Amen. Sevens for sure. Put sevens in the chat for that. 100%. 100%. The young lion speaking wisdom. All right. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So we're talking about our environment. And again, I'm not going to send someone out there and not prepare them for what's out there. That's why I love, when the God of Israel gives instructions, many times he will say, hey, I'm going to send you to the city. And when you get there, you're going to see an old man and you're going to do this and this is going to happen. And don't go that way. Don't talk to anybody. Just come right back. He's preparing you for what's about to happen when you go out to do the instructions. The same thing with the young men. We're like, hey, listen, don't be shocked when you face racism. Don't be shocked when you get these experiences that may happen to you. Don't go looking for it. Don't expect that, whatever. Don't be shocked. We want to prepare you for that. And don't let it diminish you. Don't keep yourself from going into that room because you think they're going to treat you a certain way. If something you need is in that room, you go get it. So that's the environment part of it. And so a part of this too is to understand some of the ways that society may try to oppress you, is to really understand, well, there are different parts of you, right? According to the wisdom of our elders, shout out to Elder Shadrach, the founder and master teacher of Israelite Nationwide Ministries, who is a maverick in his own right, talking about, someone who's charted his own course. He, in the book, The Truth, the Lie, and the Bible, this goes back 30 years, and he wrote this book, that the understanding about the different parts of you. And young men, if you don't have this book, which I'm sure you do, make sure you do get it. Fifth Rib Publishing, which is, again, Elder Shadrach publishing company, started many years ago. And read it again. You may have read it with your parents, maybe read it with your father, but read it again. You understand, you read it at different stages in life, it hits different, and you're going to see different things in it. So this is one part that's here, where it speaks about, as an individual, as a person, but we're talking specifically for men in this place. That you are three parts. There are three parts to you, right? There's your body, there's your physical body, right? There's your soul, which is your consciousness and your mind, right? Your intellect, and then there's your spirit, And these are the three pieces that make you. And it's. Do you ever look at yourself in that way? Is that something that's foreign or hard to comprehend or understand? What do you guys' thoughts on that? When this understanding about seeing yourselves, body, soul, and spirit. How is that? How you perceive that? Anybody?
I know for myself, there's I look at it like as a pre-Israel and current Israel identity. Pre-Israel, it always felt like it was something more, but you couldn't really, wrap your mind around it, like of what it is and of what it was, right? Because sometimes thoughts come to you or things come to you, and you're like, where did that come from? Like what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, or you have I always attribute it to like being under the weather, right? You have the zeal, right? That spirit to just want to jump up and accomplish so many things, but the physical body is so beat down that it doesn't want to do anything.
Mm.
And you're fighting against that. And
the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Like you said, you have that your conscience. And I don't know about you guys, but I talk to myself daily, right? What they say, right, is there's nothing wrong with asking yourself the question. It only becomes wrong when you start answering back. That's when your body got some issues. At least that's what they say. But that's how all three work in conjunction to make up you is so unique, and it's something that I really truly feel And it's so important and special to be a part of that source, because it could be a different source you're tapping into, which could be turned down the flesh, which spread misinformation and just destroying you from the inside out. So I know for me, it's like I said, it's something that I'm not gonna say thought about. It's something I always felt, but didn't really comprehend until I got my hands on the truth aloud in the Bible.
How about the young man? How do you guys? Is it?
I know that for me, I feel like growing up in the culture, you're aware of your spirituality being an important factor of life. But as far as what that means in your actual actions that you take in your life, besides like don't eat certain foods and like go and do and and go to Passover, attend tabernacle, sing, worship, besides like the things that you're doing in the group, you don't always see like, okay, I guess I'm a pretty cool guy. Like, and so this culture is clearly like is giving me love and comfort from like my aunties and my uncles. So like, of course, like there's that aspect, but even that itself is spiritual. But when you're younger, you can't see it, So I think as I got older and you kind of like, and something happens, I mean, college kind of does this where you kind of dropped in the bucket of the world and now you're just free, you're just living. But even after college, it's even more extreme because now the safety net's taken off too. If you went to college, but regardless, once you finish with school, you're just a man in the world. And so all of a sudden, like, okay, so if you try and follow the advice of like your friends and all that stuff, and you see different paths people go, and I think a lot gets revealed to you. You're like over time. I think a lot of things take time in order to learn it, and I think the understanding that this is a spiritual world, not a physical one. Like what you see, it is not what you get. It is something else going on. Because how did this happen? And then fast forward 10 years, this person didn't make it. This person went left. And you see like the roots of how that happens, So I think the older I get, the more that I'm so aware of these three layers in every decision I make. So like, why do I want to do this? Why do I have the desire to want this? I have to like really relay it back and like, okay, is that my body thing? Is that a spiritual thing? Is that like, so I have to like really think about why. Because if you don't think about why, you'll end up, and I think the slides coming up kind of show all the ways that you can be attacked in an area of your life. And like, you're like, okay, I'm going to Sabbath, but geez, like this world is crazy, So it's like having to deal with all those layers is like, it's a whole different task. So then now when you read the Bible and you see that they have the understanding of these layers, you understand like, oh, that's why we love this guy. That's why we don't like this guy, because the understanding of the layers is where now when you read that story, you can really see the depth of what's going on in their mind to make certain decisions. So it almost becomes like a never ending learning. Like once you see those layers, you're just constantly learning, all the time. And you look at everything, even the smallest things, as possibly being very deep and heavy,
Yeah, it's like life goes from checkers to chess.
That's what yeah, exactly.
100%. And this directly connects back to the one that we did prior, which says Ephesians 6:12, right? We want to make sure repeat this again. We wrestle the fight that we have, this fight that we have here in this land of our captivity. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. We may think it is. We may think that's where the fight is coming through. But against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So when we talk about the institutional systems here that are set up in this land of Egypt and all these things that we're going through, and how this, it's not just the physical thing which you see with your eyes. There are spiritual things that are happening in order to make you think and feel that way, right? And so it's important that you look at it that way. And so I think Elder, thank goodness in his wisdom, laying it out this way, and understanding the different parts that you are, I think helps lay the foundation for understanding how these various attacks can come, right? So let's go to the next. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to keep going on that too, because I think that's why oftentimes when we talk about the other side, principalities in high places, right? Even in that regard, that's why they always come for our youth. Like all their marketing schemes, all their advertising, it's all coming for the youth because you don't have any defense. Like your brain is set up to understand. So you're like, okay, this looks cool, and everyone's doing it, right? But literally, what everyone is doing and what is normal, and you're like, oh no, everyone's doing it. Like it's cool. It's just a cool thing to do. It's not that deep. It really is that deep, and it is. Most of the time, the cool thing to do is like it's like damaging for you. It's gonna hurt your spirit, hurt your soul, and everyone walks in that direction, and then like it's not good. It's not good. I'll just say that right now. So really like staying true to like really listening to the people that actually love you. Like don't listen to the people that are just here for a good time and not a long time, because they're really not here for a long time. They're really those moments are not here for a long time. And the only thing that can happen is now you can now get straight off your path. So that's one thing I will say is that in those moments, execute patience and execute understanding of yourself, like really be true to yourself and your uniqueness, and understand that the people that love you are the only ones that matter. And of course, our Father as well.
Amen. Amen. 7's in the chat for that. 7's in the chat. I'd love to see what some of the comments are about this. Hopefully people are resonating with this. All right. We're focusing on the young men and trying to give them some wisdom from the older men to be able to kind of navigate through this world. And hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Let's go to the next slide, because I'm based upon that premise, based upon the structure that Elder Shadrach had given us, understanding who we are, how it makes it up. I wanted this is homework for you guys. This is homework for you guys. So putting in the table those three parts of a person, of yourself. In this case, the young man. This would be great exercise for the young man to kind of do with his father or with an elder or with an uncle or mom, just to kind of go through and go through this, because it's an interesting exercise. So do we have these three parts, right? You have your body, your flesh, and the definition is there. We have your soul, your mind, your consciousness, and definition is there. Then you have your spirit, and definition is there. Now take a few moments. How does this world, we read before about how this world attacks us as Israel. How does this world attack us in these various different spheres of ourselves? How do we see the attack of this world on us as Israelites, especially on our young men? How does it attack us in our body? How does it attack us in our soul, in our mind? How does it attack us in our spirit? Right? Think about that for a second. Fill this out. And I know this is a recording, so you guys could probably, pause it here and then go through and do this. Take a screenshot and do this after. But just think about that for a little bit. How are we attacked? And especially our young men. As I said, a great thing, a very accurate thing. A lot of times the attack, a lot of times on our young men, because the idea, it goes back to the same psychology that the cigarette industry, got sued for, right? The idea that they were targeting cigarettes to young people because they know if they get them hooked as a young person, they have a customer for life. In a similar fashion, they know, the other side knows, if they can take out our young men, we have no nation. We have no men to lead our nation into the future. So again, it's not checkers, this is chess. So the idea is like, well, how do these attacks come? How do they come in the body? How do they come in the soul? How do they come in the spirit? And the next column is like, well, if we know that, then what are the things that we need to do to strengthen those parts of us, our body, our soul, our mind, and our spirit, so that our young men can be resilient to the things that would be thrown at them, right? That when they go out into the world. Let's take a minute to go through that. And in 2 Corinthians 2, this little verse, it says, lest Satan should take an advantage on us. We are not ignorant to his devices. It's us who are older, who's been through this, it's us who has had some of these experiences and some clarity, manifestation of some of these things. The idea again is like, we need to share this. Hey, we need to share this, young man, so you guys are not shocked when something happens around here. Again, we don't want to give you any of this doom and gloom to kind of say, let it paralyze you. We just want to say, hey, be prepared for it. and you can be very successful despite these things. All right. So we threw out some suggestions and that we're going to talk through now. It's not a comprehensive list, but I think going through this exercise on your own, on a blank slate, kind of might be helpful for you guys. So let's go to the next slide, please. These are some things. And so maybe one of us can take each side and then each of the categories and then each row, and then, sort of speak to it. Who wants to go first with the first row as far as your body and your flesh? How are we attacked? What are some things we can do to strengthen? Absolutely. Yeah.
I would attack, we're attacked by unhealthy habits, disease, addiction, laziness. Some of the things to strengthen. And I think this is a big one for our community, because all these play a part into strengthening one, strengthens the other. So for the body, the proper diet, regular exercise, regular rest, I think is vital. So many times we often find ourselves on the go, nonstop. That rest is an afterthought. And well, what's the old saying? Never mind. I can't even remember. But it's something about you ignore the body until the body does something. Anyway, rest is very important. The proper environment. This is one I think we don't pay enough attention to, even with knowing better, right? Even with having, even with serving the greatest God and having a different spirituality. Sometimes we can often put ourselves in environments thinking that it won't impact us or won't affect us. And I think that's very damning later on, because, and this is something we often talk about, right? Sometimes we get thoughts or ideas of things happen and we think it's an original thought, not realizing that that's something that was planted maybe a day ago, a week ago, months, or even years ago, because of prolonged exposure to the wrong environment. And last but not least, discipline. All this means nothing if you don't have the proper discipline to ensure that you go through these proper exercises to make these things happen. Because you can't start and then stop and say, I'll pick it back up later, or I'll get to it next week. It doesn't work that way. Once you fall off the wagon, you have to start all the way back over. It's not like picking up the baton and going, oh, okay, I can do this, right? I remember when I was younger, when I was 19, right, working out, doing a bunch of different things. And when I turned 27, I was like, hey, I'm going to work out. I want to work out like I was 19, right? Big no. My body
you hurt yourself. You hurt yourself.
It did not move the same. So understanding that these are, like you just said, these are some of the things we highlighted to really point out, to emphasize this is how we can strengthen the body to make it more vital to impact your soul and your spirit, so that you can get that cadence going to always take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think as a young person, you don't think about health so much because you are in tip-top shape. You can eat whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You have so much energy, and
sleep 2 hours.
You are ready to do it. But you got to get those good habits, because later on in life, when your body does slow down, you got to have those good habits to keep yourself healthy and living long. And during COVID, Black people were one of the ones that had the worst outcomes, and it wasn't because of the COVID. It's because of our unhealthy habits. It's because of our bodies. It's because of our heart disease, it's because of diabetes, it's because of all these various things. That a lot of them are from our environment. A lot of these things are from what we eat, lack of exercise, a lot of these things. And so you don't want to go down that path. You want to make sure that you do that, because you cannot be working your optimal in those other areas if you don't have this going, at working at its best. So that's not it's not a small conversation. This is definitely a big part of it. Any thoughts, young men, on this area? Agree, disagree? Anyone to add as far as attacks or strengthening?
Yeah, I think just hybering on those attacks is that those attacks it starts well, actually all the attacks in all the categories start young, but um I'd say that, just being aware of those attacks, because those attacks can sneak up on you at any stage in life. And I think especially when you're at your weakest, I think is when these attacks really they really hurt. So just to be aware that that is an attack on, it's not just an attack on you, but it's attack on your potential. And it's an attack on you trying to be the best version of yourself. Because
Yeah.
now you get to the point where you're the only one stopping yourself from being the best version of yourself. So that's how deep the attack goes, because you start attacking yourself. So
Yeah.
that's a big one. Yeah.
And understand this is it's there's a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? That's like you said, but you can put salt in his food. You can incentivize them to have certain behaviors, right? And so the propaganda machine, in order for you young men to follow unhealthy behaviors and practices and habits, is out there. And so you have to be very conscious and resilient to that, to make sure you don't fall prey to those things and just be another statistic. And I think a good thing is all these things, strengthening these things, all have the foundation in our law, our statutes, and our commandments. As far as our body being able to really take care of it, as far as there's no small part of our scriptures which speaks about unclean and clean foods. The idea that you're very conscious about what you put into your body. You're very conscious about the environments that you go into. Even the whole thing about rest, I've been talking about this over the past few weeks, actually. It's the idea, I don't know if, well, at least in our culture, a big foundation of our things, that we have a law that says on this day, you will rest. There'll be no work, and it's the idea of left to our own devices, we just keep going. But it's like, no, I don't care what you want to do. It's like, you need to rest. And again, thank goodness our God knows us better, what's good for us better than we know for ourselves. So I'm saying these foundations are not just things that are in our mind or from our experiences, but they are rooted. The foundations are rooted in our laws, our statutes, and our commandments.
I also think that environment and discipline kind of go well together, because you choose what environment you want to go into, but the discipline is kind of how you react to your environment. And I also think that has like a crucial play in like all the different parts, your body, soul, and spirit. I feel like the environment you're in kind of affects your spirit, and the discipline is also like your soul, your spirit, and how you react to things, and just how like I don't know, I guess just how, I don't know how to put this into words, but just how you react to it and how you yeah.
No, 100%. Very insightful, because I was thinking the same. Like, a lot of this could flow into the other discipline. You discipline in all areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You discipline a lot, so there's a lot that could overflow into other things. So 100%. All right. How about Shelby? You want to do the next one? Soul.
Sure. So, how it's attacked is, this discouraging education. I mean, and that's a big part for me. Just reading that first part is like, understand. It brings about a humbleness, right? When you understand that that's an attack upon you, because you're getting discouraging education, so it makes you be like, well, there's something else, there's something more. Like what Minister Anthony was talking about, you always had that belief that there's something more, inside. So that discouraging education, when you start to put little things together, going back, you understand that you're being taught something it's not very, I'm not very excited, I'm not learning the way I feel. This don't connect, the dots don't connect. That's what I'm looking for. So discouraging education is real. That's something that jumped out at me, and it makes you just real humble at that point once you realize that. Stress and anxiety. Wow. I can speak to that myself, just being stressed and just having the anxiety, especially growing as a young man into adulthood, and finding and just looking for my my place in life and what I'm doing. Am I taking care of myself, my parents? Then you start having kids, and then you get a wife. It's like all the stress and anxiety. So all of this is taking over your thoughts, a lot of your thoughts, which make you have bad habits and disease and addiction, right? Fear and what's that? I can't even say the word right now.
Fragility.
Fragility.
Yeah, fragile. Yes.
Yeah. I fought with that at a point in time in my life too, trying to get over certain things, like having that before me. That was rough as well. And I say right now, soul, mind, for the soul is like approach everything now with that attack. You approach everything now with knowing I have the God of Israel on my side. We was just reading something like that where the God of Israel was telling, I think it was Joshua. I think it was in the lesson we just had Saturday, Joshua, and it was telling me, hey, I got you. Like you going from Moses to Joshua, like I have you, the God of Israel speaking that he has him. And so just getting rid of that fear, lack of vision. Lack of vision really important because I believe we all have to, even the God of Israel had a vision, right? So if he visualized what we would be doing or what he wanted us to be, I think we should be always, having vision as well. So this lack of vision is really an attack on all of us. From the TV shutting down our thoughts, the boys now have all these games, and it just shuts down the lack of vision. All they can see is the game. They don't see what they can do afterwards. So, but the way we strengthen all of that is, of course, like being a lifelong learner. Understanding that you need more. You can never stop learning. Reading a lot, just becoming involved in things, trying new things that keep you learning about different things, staying positive and having confidence. That's a deep one because I think everybody needs to feel, you need to really try to stay focused. Everything is not as bad as it seems or looks. Setting goals goes back to the vision. If you have a vision, you can set goals towards it and it helps it out. So it's going to most definitely strengthen your soul. Building resilience. I'm just never stopping. I think that's a strong point to just never stop trying to be better. And again, it knocks away all the stress, the fear, because that vision that you have, you just staying focused. So you just keep building that resilience towards that. And it just helps you build your conscience in your mind. And always a good mentorship. That's always been a good one for me. I always kept older men around me. It's after I couldn't prove my dad wrong. I kept the older men around me. So they started helping, giving me advice. And then, of course, listening to my father, my dad, just so the mentorship is highly important. And I hope all the young Israelite men do find someone that can mentor them. So that's important.
All right. What do you guys think? What's your thoughts as we're going through this?
I think number one for me is discouraging education, primarily because our ancestors, even while in shackles, said that a man that is educated is no longer fit to be a slave. Even with chains on their arms still, always felt like as long as I'm educated, you can't make me a slave. Physically, you can enslave my body, but you can never enslave my mind. And that has always resonated with me, even down to today, because we shy away from it. We shy away from anything, in essence, to build up, to build our minds up, right? Because I don't even look at education as like, as preparation for college and things like that. It's just simple, basic principles of learning, of training your mind to get to a certain point to where you can understand different things, where you can see different things. And when you shy away from that, or like more often than not, I hear terms like I don't read. And it's almost said with a badge of honor. Like, I don't read, or I don't like to read. That's the worst thing anybody could put on themselves. The worst. So that discourages education. It to me, you can package the rest of it and stick it right into the discouraging education, and it's all the same.
It's all about learning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Spirit, how about Ezra? You want to take that one?
Sure thing. We have spirit. So how the spirit can be attacked is through blindness, through unbelief and doubt, through isolation, and through magnifying other gods and cultures. And how the spirit can be strengthened is through patterns of prayer, utilizing fasting, studying the scriptures, going to the altar, and staying connected. And I think that this is very important, especially as Israelites. I know that we're constantly told this in the nation. If you're in the nation, you're constantly aware of this. If you're not in the nation, then you need to be aware of this, and you need to study this part a lot. Because
absolutely,
you can have the other two things, and if you don't have this thing, something's not going to fully click. So that's very important if you're not in the nation. If you are in the nation, then you are aware of the importance of fostering your spirit and growing it and training it and it becoming one with the creator and God and the way that things move naturally, the way that, you know, trees are in line with the world and God's creation. So as a human, you're supposed to be in line too. So things like prayer and fasting allow you to kind of get out of your animalistic tendency to always want to be doing something, but to kind of come back to strengthening the thing that is even allowing your body to move, the thing that gives you your thoughts and your mind and your creativity, like all the good characteristics that you have, that's your spirit. So those things allow you to strengthen it and even to receive clarity. I know that I've gone on fasts that have been tremendously helpful in gaining clarity in my own decision making in my life, whether it's career related or relationship related or something I want to do for the nation. But I think all those things help build your spirit, because when you feed your spirit, the rest, it's like a pyramid, you know, the rest of those blessings just fall down into other aspects of your life. But and even when we were going over these slides prior, we also wanted to make a point that you also can't only do that, right? So if you just spend all day praying, all day fasting, when are you putting in the work to prove that you've gained anything from that? So I think part of that is also like understanding that focusing on your body, focusing on your soul, focusing on keeping positivity around you, participating in positive activities, keeping your mind positive, right? I mean, I think it's somewhere in the slide and we were going over it before, but the things that you think about quite literally become you, right? So always be aware of your mind, because your mind is constantly dragging you in a direction, whether it's good or bad. So I think, yeah, keeping that checked. And I think that will help all three of these parts of you to align. So if all three parts are healthy, then you're looking at a very healthy child, and that, or very healthy adult, or very healthy man, very healthy woman. And that's what we want in our nation is healthy. So yeah.
100%. Let's go to the. I know we only got a little bit time left, and we have a lot of stuff. We're going to go deep dives in these areas. We probably got to do like a part 2 on this, but at least let's get through a couple more slides before we end. And hopefully, again, this is resonating with people. I'll take on this. So this is a part of sort of a little deep dive into the spiritual part, like you said, Ezra. Romans 8, 4-6. That the righteousness of the Lord might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. I'll pause there a second. What do you guys think? Does it make sense of what we're talking about?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly, I think when you're younger, I don't know what it is about the world, but they don't put peace is not like a thing that they want. Like they don't push it. So it's not like there's a peace is not what they're marketing towards. They're always marketing towards, oh, get this thing, and then
excitement. Yeah,
right, everything is about excitement and wanting to feel.
Because you got so much energy. You're like, man, I got time.
It's lit all the time. That's
lit all the time, right?
That's not life. And that is a short journey to death. It's exactly what it read. It's exactly what it is. And so I think that's important to realize that actually, if you want to live a long life and a life of like truly happy moments in which you are smiling on the inside and the outside, and you enjoy the people around you, then yes, then you have to focus on being spiritually minded, because that's what you want. You want peace. You want peace. You don't want short term. You want long term peace.
And go back to the other slide. And a part of peace, another word for that is balance in all of these three areas. A lot of the issues we face in life because things are out of whack. Too much focus is focused on the body and the fleshly things. Too much focus is focused on the mind and the intellect and those things. Too much focus is even on the spiritual things, right? And so it's balance. And that's where you find peace, is when you have the balance among all these spheres. Because why? All of this is not three separate entities. All of this is you. In order for you to have peace, you need to have peace in all of these areas working together collaboratively in order to bring peace. And as an Israelite, as a young man, as someone that's going to grow to become head of a household, as someone that's going to be a leader in the nation, a leader in society. That's what Israel is. We are the head of society. We need to be able to, like you were saying, Deb, have the discipline in all these areas, in order to be able to bring them into subjection, so that we are running our body. Our body is not running us. We're running our mind. Our mind is not running us. And we're also controlling our spirit. That's a powerful man. I think that's a powerful man that has control on all these three areas. Let's go to the next slide. Go back to the slide. I want to finish that first. Okay. 1 John 2:15-17. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. That's a powerful statement. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passes away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. Powerful. Open it up for us, somebody. How's it hitting you?
I mean, it goes right back to what we were saying. If you're only after to satisfy the pleasures of the flesh, then you're carnally minded. You're killing yourself faster than anything else will.
So let me just pause a second. Does that mean you can have no pleasure in your flesh?
Oh, of course you can. Of course. Like you said, you want to have that balance. But if you, like you said, if you're 100%, if all you're doing is trying to appease the flesh, and you're not focusing on the other aspects of you, whether it be the spirit and the soul, then it's death. There's nothing more there. And for the fact of the love of the world, if any man love the world, the Father is not in him. This is a verse so powerful. First thing that stood out to me is John 3:16, but that's a whole nother story. But
I know. I was thinking that too. Yeah.
But to hear that, right? Because we talked about it before, especially with young men and the young people who are listening and watching, even older people who are listening and watching. When we talked about going in the world and just feeling different or feeling like an outcast or wherever you may be, it's okay. It's okay, because this is not a world for you to dive into with open arms and be loving and love everybody and everything in it. That is not the goal. That is not the aspect of it, right? We do the will of our Father, and whatever he wants us to do is It's what our goals should align to align with his goals. And that's what stands out to me when I read that particular verse.
So the producer is letting us know that we're running out of time, so we got to kind of close. But we're like, I mean, I feel like we're just getting there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I feel like just getting there. So I don't know. Again, I hope everybody is enjoying so far. We are definitely bringing a part 2 because I think there's so much more that we want to really want to uncover. Ezra, Zeb, is this helpful? I mean, is this good for you guys? What do you guys think?
I think especially as a young person and seeing all these men that have gone through what I've gone through, it's a very good learning experience. Just seeing all of you guys' point of views, especially like Ezra in his 20s. And then like just the older men, just seeing different point of views on like different situations that I've gone through or that I'm going to go through. It's just cool to see. So yeah, it's very helpful.
Absolutely. So some final words, Ezra, as we close off.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to your analogy in the beginning, when you look to your left, you look to your right, those older, those younger than you, it feels good to be able to help the people younger than me to navigate certain things that I'm like, listen, like, don't do that. Don't, to like be able to help you like keep your potential and keep you proud of yourself and beautiful and lively and happy, to ruin yourself, and then also even to look into the other direction as far as for those older than me, to learn from them, and to, as you guys were talking about, understand the value of being humble, to listen and to know that, like, listen, it's not about all the excitement, but ABC is going to get you what you want. Just put in that work every day. And I think the biggest piece that I'm taking away from today is the balance. The fact that if you don't want to focus on any one specific area just as hyper focused, but you need a balance of health in all aspects, in body, spirit, and soul. And once you have that balance, then you feel balanced. So yeah.
100%. Shelby, how about yourself? Final words.
I just really love hearing the young men take in what we're saying, what we're showing, our experiences. It's gonna work out great. It'll work out great if you can do that constantly, especially with what you have around you. Like we talked about, that environment. You have the Israelite men around you who foundation is right. I think it's gonna work out great, and I'm just excited. I'm glad that we went through this because I'm always excited to talk to young men. So I think it's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. I know we're out of time. I really enjoyed this conversation, this opportunity, as everyone said, for us to speak across the different generations and to make sure that we continue to develop ourselves. If there are some things here, I hope you guys do the homework too that's assigned to you. And I'd love to hear back from you in the comments. And if there's some other pieces of this conversation you think that we should also include, let us know, and we'll put that in our part 2 as well. So again, this is not a one and done. Hopefully this sparks conversations in your household, in your home, in your communities, in your branches, because we really got to make sure we do all that we can to strengthen our young men. All right. Well, peace, everybody. Thank you again for joining us, and take care.
Peace.